Alrighty, is this working? Let's see. It, in fact, did not fix my settings. I'll do that next time, I suppose. Anyways, back to my normal avatar.
Red has no problem admitting that she craves attention. Her behavior before anything else really just kind of screams it.
Now, in a community of children, initially Castillo's bullshit defense worked at quelling the allegations, and it looked like he may just get away with grooming minors. But some adults within the Roblox community, including the YouTuber Ruben Sim, would eventually catch on to the story and became outraged at what they saw as outright grooming. Grooming by a popular Roblox community developer. Seeing that official Roblox staff weren't doing anything about this community developer, Ruben and others called them out, organizing tweets, videos, and Google Docs with evidence against who they believed was a pedophile taking advantage of the youth. This would be a success, and Arnold's main Roblox account was deleted after Ruben Sim had gotten in touch with the company. Yet, unfortunately, this wouldn't stop the guy from making money due to his main account not being a main source of his income. The man used other accounts as a developer and would claim that his revenue had actually tripled since the controversy. The dude was being braggadocious. He's like, y'all can't fucking stop me. There would be a continued back and forth between Ruben Sim and Arnold Castillo, which involved Ruben making many attempts to expose the guy to the official Roblox staff. But his complaints mostly went on deaf ears. The grooming server would persist despite all inquiries. There were certainly many occasions where Roblox could have intervened and stopped Castillo because they had his identity, but they never would. Ruben Sim and others remain frustrated by this lack of understanding and urgency regarding children's safety. However, in 2022, some would notice that Castillo was no longer active in his Discord and would begin to wonder if something had finally happened to him. Well, after doing a bit more digging into this mysterious matter, they found that Arnold had actually been arrested by the FBI. Turns out prior to this, Arnold Castillo had become infatuated with a 15-year-old girl in his Discord, using his alias Jacob Shedletsky. From January to May of 2022, Arnold is reported to have communicated and groomed the 15-year-old through social media and gaming applications, using Instagram, Roblox, and Discord. He began messaging her privately and sending her large sums of money, buying the girl's anime artwork using Cash App, along with purchasing items on Amazon, such as an artist glove for her drawing tablet, a Max Smart tablet drawing stand, and a Wacom Mobile Studio Pro 13 Windows 10 computer that was delivered to her parents' home in Indiana. He was a fucking sugar daddy groomer is what he was. You know, basically an attempt to spoil or sugar up this young minor to get her favor, leading her to believe that Arnold had clout and could connect her with potential employment opportunities in the online gaming and art sphere. He then reportedly used his leverage as a prominent Roblox community developer to coerce the minor into sexually explicit conversations while turning her against her family. You know, telling the girl that they were in love and that, you know, her mom and dad were just trying to ruin the relationship that they had.
Yeah.
The girl's family members were starting to get worried as their daughter was receiving gifts on the internet. And Castillo used that to his advantage, twisting the narrative and making it seem like the family was trying to come in between their relationship. Ugh. Things would grow even darker when Arnold concocted a...
Another good Harry skin. Come on, bro. Just because I got pajamas, I might get it. So don't play it XL? I think the first person I saw that was Lashana, so... There's a lot of Dizzy skins. Now that I'm looking. There's only 3 Harry skins that I know of, at least. I have one of them.
A plan to transport the minor across multiple states to his residence in New Jersey by way of Uber. Arnold would use the app to hire a driver in New Jersey and then transported the girl 700 miles to his residence, paying the driver $500 through Cash App before they left in New Jersey and another $500 when they returned with the victim. I don't know if the driver noticed anything suspicious or maybe he just figured he was transporting a girl to her family. I don't know. Regardless, this depraved mission was a success, and the 15-year-old girl was picked up in Indiana and taken to Castillo's house in New Jersey. While within the confines of Arnold's home, the minor was sexually abused multiple times to the point where Arnold even hired an Uber to purchase Plan B for her in an attempt to prevent pregnancy. It's also reported that while she was with him, Arnold confined the girl to a small room, where he kept his eye on her at all times, controlling her movements and where she went, along with access to food and basic necessities. While this was all going on, the young girl had been missing for days, and the parents of her were absolutely worried. They would report her missing on May 3rd of 2022 and hope for the best. Now, the family was well aware of Castillo, and he would become the #1 suspect. But it is to note that Castillo wasn't using his real name. He was going by his alias Jacob Shidletsky. Police even conducted an interview through phone call on May 5th with Arnold, who lied to law enforcement, stating that he had no idea where she was and that she must have run away. However, authorities would finally catch up to Arnold on May 11th of 2022, after FBI agents were staking out his house and caught Arnold walking with the girl in front of his house. They then swooped in, recovered the girl, and arrested Arnold Castillo on the spot. While searching the pedophile, officers found several unopened condoms in his pocket, and when taken in, Castillo would confess everything to authorities. FBI Indianapolis Special Agent Herbert J. Stapleton would have this to say, quote, "This was a horrible nightmare for both the child lured away from her home under false pretenses and the family who was left to worry about where she was, if she was safe, and if they would ever see her again. The FBI and our partners will always do everything in our power to safely recover a child and reunite them with their loved ones." United States Attorney for the Southern District of Indiana, Zachary A. Myers, would also say this, quote, "No parent should have to endure 8 torturous days not knowing if their child is alive or dead, only to learn that a stranger used social media and other online tools to groom their child and spirit them across the country. This defendant is a stone-cold manipulative child predator who used the tools of social media and gaming to abuse a vulnerable child and then obstructed the efforts of law enforcement officers to secure her a safe return home. I commend the outstanding work of law enforcement agencies along along with the FBI, Indianapolis, and Newark field offices for working around the clock for 8 days to bring the victim home safely. Thanks to the outstanding work of these law enforcement officers, this dangerous predator will be unable to harm another child. After Arnold was arrested, he faced 2 life sentences for kidnapping a minor, and in August of 2023, Castillo was sentenced to 15 years in prison after pleading guilty to transportation of a minor with intent to engage in criminal sexual activity and coercion and enticement of a minor. It seemed that Ruben Sims' attempt to get in touch with the authorities were not in vain, as they were able to cross-reference his reports with the other arrest, and thus Arnold Castillo is behind bars. Although the non-existent efforts of Roblox are still being reported on to this day, and the company continues to be criticized over this matter. Habbo Hotel. Most of you watching probably know of this game thanks to a famous internet historian video. It's a Second Life style game developed for teenagers and boasts a large child player base. It's an MMO based around 2D graphics with blocky pixelated avatars where players navigate through virtual rooms while in a hotel. The game is operated by a Finnish company called Sulaki and was created in 2000. In-game, players can create their own character, decorate their own rooms, along with playing a multitude of games that are purchased by using Habbo credits, which have to be obtained with real-world cash along with special items bought inside the game itself. At the time of this story in 2007, 6 million people in over 30 countries were playing Habbo Hotel every month. Although the MMO was an incredible financial success, it has had some community controversy over the years. In-game scams and fraud attempts involving users' accounts getting hacked and the effort of stealing in-game belongings for real-world cash. Usually this involved hackers stealing stolen in-game furniture. The way hackers gained access was by creating fake Habbo Hotel websites intended to fish gullible account holders, tricking them into putting their login info into a fake website, thus unknowingly granting access of all of their items to a scammer. Now, early on during Habbo Hotel's infancy, scammers and hackers who swiped in-game items were able to get away with it pretty easily due to Habbo Hotel's terms of service, which stated that a player, quote, did not have any other interest, including no property, proprietary, intellectual property, or monetary interest in your virtual currency and virtual goods, which remain our content and property. Basically saying anything they steal isn't actually yours, and like you can't press charges because you never owned it. They owned it. See, back then, the idea of digital currency had yet to really be fleshed out, therefore anything in-game wasn't actually yours, it was Habbo Hotel's, who could theoretically do whatever they wanted with it. However, soon that would all change and the crimes would begin to be reported and prosecuted. While investigating these attacks, authorities would soon find out that quite a few were teenagers.
Okay, we are not.
In November of 2007, Dutch police in Amsterdam were able to nab a 17-year-old who was accused of stealing around 4,000 euros worth of virtual furniture that was bought with real-world money. 5 other 15-year-olds were also questioned, and all 6 teens were suspected of working together as they phished accounts and obtained access to various Habbo Hotel accounts, where they then nefariously logged into these profiles and swooped up all of the furniture, transferring the items into their own virtual rooms in-game. A spokesman from the operators of Habbo Hotel said, quote, "The accused lured victims into handing over their Habbo passwords by creating fake Habbo websites. In Habbo, as many other virtual worlds, scamming for other people's personal information, such as usernames, has been problematic for quite a while. We have had much of this scamming going on in many countries, but this is the first case where the police have taken legal action." 3 of the minors would be convicted by a Dutch judge on April 2nd of 2009. The theft of accounts through phishing would continue to become a massive problem for Habbo Hotel, as in 2010 there were numerous investigations in Finland for phishing attacks on the website. There was also another incident involving RuneScape, in which 2 boys in the Netherlands, a 14 and a 15-year-old, physically forced a 13-year-old boy to transfer them a magical amulet from RuneScape into their inventories, beating the kid up and threatening him with a knife. In 2012, the Dutch courts ruled that virtual items could be considered goods, which therefore meant that they could be stolen. As for the teenagers, not much is known given that they were minors at the time and their names were redacted. However, that said, as of now, the 17-year-old would be in his mid-30s, so you have to wonder what this guy is up to. Is he still scheming and hacking, or has he moved on to a normal life? I mean, I guess we'll never know. Maybe he works at an Ashley furniture store selling real furniture. 14-year-old Breck Bednar of Caterham, England, was described as a relaxed and warm-hearted young boy that loved video games. He attended an evangelist church and was a member of the Air Training Corps as well. Breck seemed like an all-around wholesome kid who had an affinity for computers and games like Minecraft. But in 2013, Breck and his family's life would turn upside down and implode when a predator from the internet wriggled his way into Breck's personal life. 18-year-old Lewis Danes had begun a friendship online with the 14-year-old Breck through online servers of the game Minecraft, and later they would interact on TeamSpeak, which was basically Discord before Discord. Lewis had been running a hosting company providing servers for players within the game, where he encountered Breck and they quickly became friends in the summer of 2013. Lewis would basically become the ringmaster, and all of the other boys he played games with kind of worshipped him in a way because he was older and had influence. However, things would get weird fast, as it's believed that Lewis started manipulating the younger boy along with other children, claiming that he was a computer genius who worked for the United States government. He claimed that he later moved to Greenwich, England, where he gave £2 million that he had made through Bitcoin to Syria, due to his distaste for American politics, apparently. Just basically posturing for the young impressionable minors with lies so they thought he was cool. But soon his acts would grow more nefarious and malicious, influencing Breck into becoming anti-government and anti-religious, and this would
Four people, yo. It's crazy. We've like never had that much. I didn't realize I'm screen sharing my whole screen. Oops.
lead to Breck turning against his family as well.
James was changing all of his ideology, and Breck would use specific phrases all the time. Well, Lewis says, I don't believe in God, so why should I have to go to church? Lewis says, I don't make any messes, so why should I have to clean up? Lewis says, I can get a Microsoft apprenticeship through him, and so I won't have to finish school. And it always had this preface that Lewis said, and I was like, God, who is this person?
You see, Danes had portrayed himself as someone who could aid Breck's career, taking him under his wing and basically grooming him into a successful computer whiz and businessman like he was, who'd have the ability to get a lot of wealth. Breck took the bait hook, line, and sinker and was incredibly influenced by Lewis. In fact, it got so bad that Lewis even wrote letters pretending to be Breck that Breck would give to his mother. At some point, his mother, Lauren LaFave, began to grow worried about her son and his relationship with this older online friend. There were times where she even established a communication with Lewis, talking to him through their computer, and during this he'd be super polite and understanding. But Lauren would later describe him as two-faced, because the moment their conversations would end, he'd go right back to trying to manipulate her son against her.
And I did try to talk to this Lewis guy, I actually did, and he's sort of two-faced, so we'll talk, but then afterwards, he'll just turn on me again.
There was even an instance where Lewis attempted to dictate Lauren's parenting, which made the mother extremely frustrated.
It got so bad that I said, well, I just need to talk to him. And we went back and forth on live messaging with Lewis telling me how to parent Breck. And at the end of the conversation, I got fed up. I said, why are you telling me how to raise my son? I said, Breck has told me that your parents weren't there for you, but I am there for Breck, and everything that I do is because I care about him and I love him.
She saw a dangerous pattern and at one point decided to take Breck's computer away along with
like
his
a 4-year-old.
phone. But when she had his phone, she started noticing text.
Feel bad. I feel bad. Well, I will say that. I feel bad.
Of Breck's friends telling the boy to, quote, be calm and don't listen to your mother. This absolutely terrified her, and she felt it best to dial the authorities in England and make sure they knew what was going on. So on December 17, 2013, she proceeded to make a call to the local police and report her concerns, where she made it clear that her son was being groomed for what she thought was sex. And she also felt that her son was being radicalized.
Good evening, sorry, please. How can I help?
Yes, I have a 14-year-old son, and there's an 18-year-old person, and I feel like he's being groomed. He's being turned against his family and schooling, and it's been ongoing for a while, and I'm getting really concerned that this person isn't actually who he says he is.
The operator would tell Lauren to make sure Breck had ceased all communication with Lewis and instructed her to tell Lewis to no longer contact her son and warned the older man that she had gotten in touch with authorities. The operator also said that in the meantime they were going to cross-reference the name she was given to see if there were any criminal records on Lewis Daines, but reportedly the authorities would not follow up and things were beginning to get much, much worse. It seems that if they had searched a little deeper into Lewis Daines, they would have found that in 2011 there was a complaint filed against him accusing of raping a boy under the age of 16. It was reported that Lewis Daines was a secluded 18-year-old man who had spent time in foster care and spent his life living back and forth with his mother and father, and was now living alone after procuring a small amount of wealth. He would be accused of rape and sexual assault, but would never be convicted for these crimes. However, the charges did remain on his record. Although Breck's mother did everything in her power to separate her son from this despicable manipulator, the relationship between Breck and Lewis would unfortunately not stop, as they would continue to play games with one another behind Lauren's back, and in fact the two even became closer over time. Closer to the point where they would meet in real life, due to Lewis creating this scenario where he was prepared to hand his multi-million-dollar company over to Breck so that he could run it. But for him to do so, they would have to meet in person, and that's where things took a sinister turn. On February 17, 2014, Breck would head out to Grays, Essex by way of taxi paid for by Lewis, and the destination was the man's flat. This is of course something he did not tell his family, because if they knew anything about this, there would be no way in hell they'd let it happen. Breck had led his father to believe that he was hanging out with a local friend and was going to spend the night. And this was a story constructed by Lewis and given to Breck. He wanted him to repeat.
Even in text, I've picked up on Ezekiel from Total Drama's at the end of speaking sometimes. I am. Identity is all that matters.
This story. Quote, if your father asks where you're going on Sunday, say you're going to meet a friend who's 14 named Edward Bly and moved to Cairo last year with his mother when his parents split up. He was a good friend for the first part of year 9, and he's invited you over to his dad's house for the day while he's visiting his father in England who lives in Caterham. His father also said that you might be able to stay the night depending on their plans. Also, in casual conversation, to have your father afford more support for you visiting a friend, say, I've spent too many half terms and holidays indoors. I'm going to spend this one outside with friends. That should help him understand and allow you to go. I mean, this is like textbook grooming, dude. Bro studied Epstein. The precise details of what happened within Dane's flat may never truly be known, but there reportedly was evidence of some sort of sexual interaction. And afterwards, Lewis proceeded to use duct tape to bind the boy's wrists and ankles, where he then took a knife and stabbed Breck in the throat, killing the innocent 14-year-old. But that wouldn't be all the guy did. Danes then took pictures of his sinister work and sent them to his online associates. These pictures would soon begin to spread.
I'm like a silent player most of the time because I'm usually doing other stuff when I'm playing, like eating.
To different friend groups online, and thus Breck's mother and father found out about their child's death when those photos were sent to them by other children. While pictures of his atrocious acts were spreading, Danes took a shower and calmly dialed the police to tell them that he had stabbed Breck while trying to stop him from taking his life, he says.
Essex Police Emergency.
Hello. I need police and a forensics team to my address, please. My friend and I got into an altercation, and I'm the only one who came out alive.
Are you telling me you've killed somebody?
Yes, I am.
Right, and who am I speaking to?
My name is Lewis Danes. I'm 18 years old. He came to stay with me because he was feeling down. Adjacent to my bed, I have a chest of drawers. I had a penknife on there. He picked...
Oh my...
picked it up, opened it, and then lost control. I grabbed a knife and I stabbed him once in the back of the neck, I believe somewhere near the brainstem. I don't remember exactly what happened, but the fight ended with me cutting his throat. I believe I turned around and I slashed his throat.
When officers arrived at the location, they found that Lewis had submerged his computer equipment in water to hide evidence, and found Breck laying lifeless and bloody in the bedroom. During the investigation, authorities would find that Danes had purchased condoms, syringes, and duct tape online a month before the killing in preparation for Breck's visit, and even gave Breck a cell phone so that they could keep in contact with the false alibi just in case his parents became suspicious. Danes would eventually plead guilty in January 2015. Lewis Danes was convicted of murder and ordered to serve a minimum of 25 years in prison. If you ask me, that's light. The man shouldn't be able to see the light of day for the rest of his life. The murdered boy's mother would comment, "No amount of years behind bars will ever change the poisonous attitude and actions of a psychotic animal who can behave this way. No amount of years will bring back the lovely boy taken from us." It would also be revealed that Lauren's son had been murdered on her own birthday. Now, it wouldn't end here. Although prisoners are banned from communicating via social media and mobile phones, many began witnessing what appeared to be Lewis Danes blogging from behind bars. These blogs were open letters criticizing Lauren's behavior after her son's death. The first was an online blog that was allegedly posted by Lewis or someone pretending to be him in November of 2015, stating that Breck had suffered severe abuse at home along with other slanderous statements. The blog also claimed that Lewis had no intention of killing Breck and that he was planning to leave the country soon, but Breck saw his suitcases, freaked out, and a fight ensued. All of this is bogus though, because if you got in a fight that accidentally led you to killing your friend, why would you take pictures and post them in group chats where everyone could see? Also, why would you bind up the person you accidentally killed with tape? They're dead, so they couldn't do anything. The second blog was posted on January 26, 2016, in response to the announcement of the BBC documentary about the murder, where the alleged Lewis criticized Lauren for accepting donations 2 days after the killing, and also tried to poke holes in Lauren's story of how she stayed in bed during the year after her son's murder, alleging that the woman had actually traveled all around the world doing press tours. He also wrote that he didn't send any of the pictures of the body to Breck's siblings. Lauren would also launch a lawsuit against Surrey and Essex police forces over the handling of their case, after the Independent Police Complaints Commission found that the operator and her supervisor during Lauren's 999 call lacked the knowledge of dealing with grooming concerns, and it was also found that there were previous reports on Lewis Dane that were never followed up on. There have been many documentaries.
Still gonna vote Libby.
Released about this sad case over the years. A stage play was even written about it in 2019 that centered around the grooming incident as reported by Breck's friends and family. This next story involves a Minecraft PvP hacking war that resulted in players getting thrown in jail. Allow me to introduce you to the Apophis Squad. The Apophis...
What?
Apophis Squad were a collection of swatters and hackers that organized together to cause chaos on the internet. Their reputation preceded them, as they are known for making threatening phone calls, sending false reports of violent school attacks through email, as well as launching DDoS attacks on websites. They also serve as a hacker-for-hire hitman agency of sorts, and allegedly can be paid to swat your online enemies. But to be frank, their main